Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. I've been a pastor now for about 37 years, serving churches in three communities that have been very different from each other. One thing they had in common, however, was the observance and celebration of the Thanksgiving holiday. In some of those places, we had a Thanksgiving worship with other churches, coming together across denominational lines, coming together as a community to recognize our blessings from God and to give God thanks and praise. In other places, the church I was serving had its own service. As you might imagine, over 37 years, I have preached quite a few sermons at those Thanksgiving worship services. So my thought this week was to offer some of those to you. In 2007, I preached a sermon entitled simply, Mr. Roth. More years ago than I care to think about now, I attended a conference I don't remember much about at all. However, there is one thing I do remember well. One of the speakers told a story from his college days. An old man showed up one day at the back door of the house we were renting. Opening the door a few cautious inches, we saw that his eyes were glassy and his furrowed face glistened with a dirty gray stubble. In his hands he clutched a dirty wicker basket, holding a few unappealing vegetables. He bid us good morning with his gap-toothed mouth, and the smell of his breath backed us up a couple of inches. Then he offered his produce for sale. We were uneasy enough that we made a quick purchase to relieve both our pity and our fear. We thought we had gotten rid of him, but to our chagrin he returned the next week, introducing himself as Mr. Roth. We learned that he lived in a half-fallen-down shack down the road. As we got to know him, our fears of him subsided, and we got close enough to realize that it wasn't alcohol, but cataracts that marbleized his eyes. On subsequent visits, he would shuffle in wearing dirty clothes that never matched and were always a few years out of style. He wore two mismatched right shoes on his feet, and when he came, he would pull out a harmonica, and with his glazed eyes set on a future glory, he'd pull out old gospel tunes between conversations about vegetables and religion. Truth be told, the speaker said, we grew rather fond of old Mr. Roth. And as Thanksgiving approached, we tried to come up with something we could do for him. Finally, we pulled together our clothes and shoes that we no longer wore, but which still had some wear in them, and then late at night we went quietly to his house and left them on the porch. The next day he appeared at our door and exclaimed, "The Lord is so good." Then he went on, "I came out of my shack this morning, and I found a bag full of shoes and clothing on my porch." We said, "That's wonderful, Mr. Roth. We're so happy for you." "Yes," he said. "And you know what's even more wonderful? Just yesterday I met some people that could really use them." Our lives abound with blessings from God. In our gratitude for the blessings we have, we are called to share with those who have less. That spirit is at the very heart of what Thanksgiving is all about. That care for others, that sacrificial generosity, that outreach in love is the true mark of the church, the true mark of God's people. Putting others first, putting ourselves second. Isn't that what Jesus likes to see in us? And you can bet that when we reach out, when we give, we're fed with God's bread, and that empty place inside of us is filled with joy. We are blessed. God is so generous to us. Gathered around God's table, we know that we are God's people. And to top off it all, and on top of it all, God has blessed us with a spirit of giving. And that's just the point. You see, we can't wallow in our blessings. God's love calls for a response. Thanksgiving isn't just a day. Thanksgiving is a way of life. Thanksgiving is the way of faith. This year, say thank you with your words. This year, say thank you with your love. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.